Welcome back. We have another episode today. This one is going to be the granddaddy of them all. We are going to be ranking the top 30. I had to add one more in just because that guy couldn't be not on the list. So it's actually a 31-man list of the best players in TLG, in my opinion, which has been proven to be wrong sometimes. Probably forgot a guy or two again, but close enough. Today I have Drew joining me, the commissioner of the league. What is up, buddy?
Hey, yo, we stoked. Let's go.
Absolutely. All right, let's just get into it because it's a lot of players we got to cover, and I'm trying to keep these videos a little shorter for the attention span people out there. So let's just dig right into it. Number 31, Isaac Esqueda. I just told you I actually originally didn't have him on the list, but the more I thought about it, I couldn't leave this bugger off the list. The dude goes 7 innings and lets up like one run like 10 times the last 2 years I played him. So he's just too damn good to leave off this list. What do you think of Esqueda here at number 31?
He's my favorite pitcher in the league.
that's that's all you
He
need to say.
throws,
Love it.
yeah, he throws 89. He throws 5 pitches with 70 control. I love him so much. I'm still sad I traded him.
Oh, what a pick. 7th rounder and turned into this kind of player. You can never predict it that. Like, what did he throw back in the day? Like 86 probably? 88.
Yeah, like nothing.
He had 25 control out of college with 88 mile an hour velocity with 30 stuff. And the dude turned into a Cy Young candidate almost every single season as a lefty. Like, what a crazy, crazy progression. All right. Not much more needs to be said about that. He's obviously a freak. Next up, JP Massey. I said in the last video when I went over the pitchers, the dude just had a crazy control progression. It went from 50 to 55. It's now 60 potential control. This guy just doesn't seem to stop getting better, and I don't know what the heck his ceiling's going to be. 14 strikeouts his last appearance, 10 the one before that. What, he just keeps trending upwards. It's wild.
Yeah, and he's got the 80. My scouts, he's got an 80 changeup and a 75 screwball. Those are two of just the absolute best strikeout pitches. Makes me sick to my stomach that he's on this just absolutely loaded White Sox staff, but his numbers are going to be unreal in like another year or two. I'm really, really not excited.
Yeah, the more almost every single time I stare at his profile, I just get more enamored. He's like, can you imagine watching a 4-pitch, 6'5" pitcher? If this guy was real, it'd just be so exciting. A 6'5" pitcher that throws 93, completely over the top delivery. The over the top curveball is one of the most beautiful pitches you got, and that's like his worst pitch. The fastball obviously has some nasty movement and control, and then like you said, an 80 changeup. So that's like saying he's got like one of the best pitches in baseball. Just like a beautiful changeup, probably like 89 miles an hour. And then a screwball, which is crazy, as your fourth pitch. And it's a 70, 75 rated.
Unreal.
Out of anyone in the league, I just wish I could watch that guy if he was real. Probably the most out of anyone. All right, next up, Josh Hader at number 29. I couldn't leave him off the list. I know a lot of people don't value relievers quite that highly, but this guy has pretty much made Mariano Rivera look like a scrub. Don't freak out at me, Yankees fan. I'm totally kidding, but that is not that crazy. The kind of seasons he put up, he is just probably the best reliever in the history of baseball. You almost can't argue at this point if what he did was real. What he's done over the last 4 years on top of his already stellar career before that. His screen is full of reliever of the year awards. Like, how do you have any lower than this, right?
Yeah, I think if we did this last year, we put him up this high, I'd be like, I don't know, that might be a stretch. It could be a fluke here. But him doing essentially what he did last year, pitching 130 innings with just absolute insane volume. Yeah, he's almost game breaking coming out of the pen.
I agree. There's that one year where I think a reliever in the AL, I think it was like pretty far back in the day, 2022 or 2023, in our TLG, and a reliever of the year one that got I think it was the White Sox dude. What's his name with 80 stuff? That crazy 100 mile an hour closer. He has the twin brother or the brother on Pittsburgh in real life. But anyways, he won reliever of the year with like 50 something innings pitched. He had crazy numbers, and he actually won it over Boston's dude there who had like 90 innings pitched. And it's just such a, like, obviously like the high impact, you can still make a really high impact over 50 innings like the traditional closers back in the day used to do 50, 60 innings. But yeah, now that you got in that stopper role, like you have starter type innings. Like, it's crazy. He's getting like 200 strikeouts as a reliever, but it's giving you like 120 innings. That's just literally double what those old relievers used to give you. So the position, I guess, doesn't really matter when you're kind of doing that kind of production, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
Next up, Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll, if you haven't paid attention, people, he's also like Massey, where he's in his mid-20s, but he hasn't stopped progressing. Look at his scouting report. His power is the main difference. He was always a high contact, good defense guy with a solid eye, but he's gone all the way up to 45 power, which doesn't scream like a power hitter at you. But when you have 45 power with a really high contact tool, you got the ability to hit 20 home runs in a season. So that just adds so much value to his bat on the skill set he already has, which is like the best base stealer in the league, a 5.2 WAR, amazing base runner. And his range just in the last month or two went from 70 to 75, which again doesn't seem that different. But really, when you get that high in those kind of tiers, once you get to that 75 level, you just get like such insane range. Like that's like kind of all time great type center fielder. So well, he's kind of at that tier now, in my opinion, where he might maybe should be even a little bit higher in this list. I really think he has a chance to be top 10 in this list once a lot of these older players ahead of him graduate. I just really could totally see him getting like 7 WAR with like 23 home runs next year or something crazy.
Yeah, what makes me sick to my stomach here about Corbin Carroll is that he is the best base stealer in the league, and he's playing in Boston and not Kansas City. Um, Being this good at running the bags and then also good defensively, he's really unbelievably good, and he should be on the short list of being like a center field superstar. Such a good position for him too.
Yeah, and Tyler's able to give him a lot of rest too. With he has 3 natural center fielders in the outfield there playing the 3 spots, so he actually can give him quite a bit of rest and helped him out. Like he doesn't wear him down playing center field every single day. I'm looking at stats now. He had 10 zone range 2 years ago, 5 last year, and 10 again this year. So that dude. What an amazing talent out there, and such an awesome contract, man. The guy's probably worth 3 times that, in my opinion. I think I talked
Yeah,
about that in the other video.
100%.
Easily get 30 million a year if he was a free agent this year. 26 years old. That would be like that's the same age Machado and Bryce Harper hit free agency, if you guys remember in real life, 2019, and they got those like $300 million deals. And Carroll is in TLG's version is like right up there with them, especially the fact he's a center fielder. So yeah, just an absolute menace. Next up, we have Albert Abreu, the pitcher from Pittsburgh. What do you think about his profile here?
By the ratings and by the pitches, he's probably the best rated pitcher in baseball. Uh, just looking at his pitching mix and what they say about his stuff movement control, I can't fathom that somebody has better overall ratings than this. It's more so comes down to like what the actual stats produce.
Yeah, like I mentioned last video, his K rate has dropped a little bit. That's just a little concerning to me. Just the -10. It's one thing to drop -5, but a drop -10 in a year just worries me a bit. Once they start to kind of lose a lot of their stuff there, they start to lose velocity, and then they start to go lose some of their pitch quality. But he is 30 years old, so it could be happening. He also is 175 pounds, doesn't have a huge frame, but yeah, he's still really solid. I would still trust him in like a game 7 of the playoff series. But full disclosure,
100%.
I did have him number 1 on my list on the pitchers actually before I noticed that stuff drop off. I was under the impression he still had that 75-80 stuff and he was having a little better season. So I actually, when I went into that starting pitcher ranking, I had him ahead of Beaver and Pearson as number 1 on my list. And then I did make the change and bump him down a little bit because of that. That's it. It sounds a little, like kind of funky, but you got to when you're that good at the top of that list, you're just splitting hairs anyway. So that was like pretty much the difference why I did drop him down a few spots, or else he'd probably be like number 10 on this list. So still a really elite talent, but I have noticed it just a bit of the electricity go down from last year in the last couple of seasons, that's for sure. But who knows? He could prove me wrong and bounce back next year, and maybe I look silly and he should be top 5 on this list. He's just amazing. All right, next up we have Gavin Lux. Gavin Lux is at number 26. I think he's probably got a top 5 bat in baseball. Just the position, he's not amazing fielder, more of a first base type. He can get away with a third base, second base, but not at a plus level. So I couldn't really put him much higher over some of these star center fielder, shortstop guys. But yeah, that bat is pretty special. He hit 350 a couple years ago for the Dodgers with 8.5
Yeah.
WAR.
Yeah. Looking at Lux, I don't think he's ever going to replicate that season where he had like a 1 OPS. Uh, One of the crazy things for him though is he is one of the best pure lefty bats. A lot of the guys above him are either like switch hitters, not too many pure lefties, but 300 hitter every year, 30 home runs every year, on base percentage around 400 just about every year. He's insane.
Yeah, and it's just as you're saying that, I was looking at him and looking at those stats you're talking about. I didn't notice how good his personality was either. I always knew he had a solid one, but I didn't think he was a spark plug with all those greens, high work
Insane.
ethic and
Yeah. Oh
leadership.
yeah.
So yeah, it just brings so much to a baseball team. Next up, we have the amazing Wander Franco, who in real life is a prodigy. He falls in at number 25 on this list. He is a 70 contact, 80 avoid K hit tool phenom. He didn't quite develop the eye in the game, like the scout said in those early years, but he has everything else you look for, and he is one of the best players in baseball every single season. He has 31 career WAR at the age of 25.
Yeah. This is one of those things where like he's super low this year. In 3 years, he's definitely going to be in the top 10. It's going to be interesting to see if he stays at shortstop and if he just keeps war chasing, or if he shifts over to third base kind of as he progresses. He can play either totally fine. It's like a very standard shortstop or a gold glove third baseman.
Yeah, what? Oh, that dude's amazing. I was just thinking, the names escape me right now, but I love the kind of same height weight combination as that. Was that old dude that played till he was like 38? Andre Beltre. Beltre. He was kind of the same height, like 5'10", 200 pounds, rocked up, just like Wander is in real life. And I think if he had a career similar, that'd be really cool. But definitely both someone that's he's kind of reminds me of quite a bit. That's for sure.
Oh
Really
yeah,
advanced bat. Love that dude. All right, next
he's
up,
got 10 years.
we got the other Dominican sensation, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You're an AL guy. What can you tell me about Vladdy Jr. playing against him a lot more than me?
He's terrifying. Oh my God, is he terrifying? If you're talking pure bats, this guy's just coming into his prime. You're talking 30 to 40 WAR every single year. He hasn't put together like say the super monster season that I'm expecting to see more of since like 2021, but he has the potential every year to go out and knock 325, 350 even, and 40 to 50 home runs. Playing first base does kind of hurt him in terms of his overall value, but I'd be more than content to have Vlad
Oof.
Jr. play my first base.
Yeah, looking at his profile, the game still has him at such high range. I really think he could get away with being an incredible third baseman in TLG at that 45 range, 65 arm. I know in real life they had him there and then they shift him over to first, but in real life he's just got this incredible work ethic. I don't know if you guys saw the pictures of him working out recently. It looks like he's up 205 pounds. I really think it'd be interesting to see what kind of WAR he would be able to put up with a pretty good third base profile. He'd be just probably a little negative in the zone range, but he gets so much offensive extra value playing at third base there when it comes out. I really think he could honestly be like a 7.5 WAR third baseman, especially with how weak TLG is third baseman. Really
There's
be
like
interesting.
nobody.
Yeah, I was doing my ratings and like no offense to you because that's your boy, but Bobby Witt Jr. being 10th, like if you compare all the positions, like
Sucks.
no one else was even close. I never thought he'd be in the top 10, but I'm looking like I got to give him the respect. The dude puts up 3 WAR a season, multiple Gold Gloves. I'm like, there's nobody else really above like 2.5, 3 WAR, so I might as well go with him. Yeah, that's how tough it is to play third base at high level. It just needs to be so good defensively and so good offensively. But anyways, enough about Guerrero. Let's move on here. Number 23, Maximo Acosta. He is another AL star. The core, the number 2 team or second best record in baseball of Texas Rangers over there. Tyler is having a killer season. 5.1 WAR. He just exploded. He must have exploded in the last couple weeks. I'm pretty sure I just looked at this and he was like 4.2 WAR or something like a week ago. But yeah, the guy has had an amazing season. He had a 123 OPS plus. He's a 2020 man officially. We'll have to do your annual year the end 2020 and 30-30 men. I think that list's probably pretty short. The guy's had an awesome season and he's definitely trending upwards. And he's still 23 years old, which is crazy because it feels like he's been around for like 6 years now.
Yeah, what's crazy about Acosta too is you look at the profile and you'd be pretty happy having that bat pretty much at any position, that speed at any position. And then you look at him and you're like, oh, that's a shortstop. That's an 80 error shortstop with 65 range. And his value just like quadruples. Like if this profile's at first base, you're probably looking at like 1 to 2 WAR. And you play that at shortstop, and every year he'll be 5 to 6. He's just one of the best players.
Yeah, I never thought to look until you said that. He's such an obvious shortstop or like second, third baseman, but he can actually play the outfield if he wanted. This guy's got 55 outfield range,
Yeah,
65. Yeah, so it's
play
just
anywhere.
amazing talent. What an athlete. So he's earned his spot in the top 25 players in baseball. He's proved it for a few years now. Another guy who fits a really similar description is one spot above him. Uh, it's pretty close. Those two guys are really nasty. Kelenic's hit tool just really jumped off the page at me. He's got some awesome power too. He's hitting 20 bombs this year, but he had 30 in Seattle back-to-back years in 24 and 25 at such a young age. It's crazy how overall skilled Kelenic's probably one of the best pure athletes in baseball. It's just such an amazing overall. Like I always consider the five tool guys, right? When they've got like the 50 ratings and a bunch of stuff, like a major league level arm running. He's got the five tool categories. He's like 60 in all of them. So he's just like a plus five tool player, which is just such a oozing like a talent. It's just amazing. And he's been trying to will those Seattle Mariners to a couple more wins last few years. And he's kind of like the Damian Lillard in real life, where he's just been loyal to them, signed a long term contract, see if he can turn those Mariners around the next few years.
Yeah, it's crazy too because his profile is just nuts. The 65 just jumps off the page at you. He should be just a perennial 5 WAR guy. If they ever got like a superstar defender in center field, I think he'd probably put up like 6 WAR in right field, being a Gold Glove candidate there. He's just absolutely unbelievable. It'll be interesting to see kind of how much longer he can kind of produce and stay in center field, or if his range is going to eventually start catching up to him with this offensive load.
Yeah, I just looked, and he was a tad lower zone range than I thought he would be. -5, still not bad though. Still had 8 outfield assists. Super strong arm, makes up for a little bit of it. But yeah, that's a really toolsy guy. I love that overall profile he has. Next up, this is exciting, is your guy, your best player for KC, Heston Kjerstad. What can you tell me about your boy?
Where do you want me to start, man? It's so funny because I think that we've already looked at some profiles that are better than Herstad's, but he just rakes. The OBP is only like 350, but he's going to give me 40 home runs. He's going to give me 25 stolen bases. He's going to give me a 140 OPS. He's going to give me 6 WAR. You know what else he's going to do? He's going to run away with the left field Gold Glove. Herstad, Heston, if you will, is he's a superstar. Switch hitter. He's gonna give it 2 more years. We're gonna take our time with him. It's only his third year in the bigs. Age 29 season, book it now. He's winning the MVP.
Oh, just looking, that's a juicy looking arbitration estimate. You got 8 figures in the first year of arbitration, $10 million estimate. That is going to be get expensive, but he's worth every damn
Breaking
penny.
the bank.
Guy's got. I
Breaking
always
the
forget he's a
bank.
switch hitter too. He's everything you look for. Like you mentioned with the profile thing, like one spot below, you see a lot more green on Kelenic's profile, but Kjerstad has got that 65 power. It's just so power. When you combine 65 contact and 65 power, it's such an amazing like two ratings to combine. You just make so much contact. You're hitting the ball so hard. It's just a dude that's gonna hit, like you said, hit 40 every year. When you can say that with 65 range and 75 speed, 75 stealing, with amazing base running, he's even better base running than I thought. Yeah, the guy's he's 5 steals away from being a 30-30 man. He just missed out on it last year too. He's too short. It looks like he actually was a 30-30 man as the rookie back in 2024. So what a he's 6'3", just a physically imposing dude. It'll be amazing to see his career numbers after a few more years there. And like you said, most places he'd be center field, but it pretty much is another center field playing left field in KC. That field's enormous out there. That's why they had Alex
Yeah,
Gordon with Gold Gloves out there nonstop. It's such a big time field out there. So he's a good fit out there in left field. I love it. All right,
just so blessed to have him.
here is a pick. I really, had to think about this one for a while. We talked about before the episode started on his ranking. Adley Rutschman probably could be even higher in this list. There's some really good players ahead of him, so it's really kind of nitpicky to figure out where to plug him exactly. But now we are in the top 20. These are the elite of the elite. Adley Rutschman comes in at number 20 for Baltimore. He is amazing. What an amazing overall player. And there's a reason he's number one recruit in real life on the Fangraphs. Pretty much every single rating I've seen so far has him number one going into the season. The guy was one of the best college players of all time. Catcher for, and he was college teammates with Nick Madrigal. I would have loved. I wish I watched more college baseball back then. Oregon State there. That's pretty cool. Those guys must have been amazing to watch together. Such incredibly advanced players at the college level. But yeah, this guy's proved it for years now at the TLG level.
Yeah, and what's insane too is that he only gets like 120 starts, and he's putting up numbers that players are lucky to get with like 150 or 160 starts. It's like a 280 hitter, and he's going to get you 30 home runs. Playing catcher with plus plus catcher defense. Also, switch hitter. Come on.
Just to round it all off, he's even got 70 base running. 70 base running from a 6'2" defensive catcher. That gives you positive on the like. It's just everything he does at a high level. It's probably one of the most well-rounded players you get. There's absolutely no weakness to this guy, other than he has a 35 sacrifice bunt, which doesn't matter whatsoever. All right, so next up,
Hey,
we got another catcher. This guy might be debated by some of you. I know everyone has radically different opinions on the value of catchers. It's really hard to sum it all up, especially a guy that has .6 WAR. But what can you tell me about what Austin Hedges brings to the Arizona Diamondbacks?
I will, all bias. I think looking at Austin Hedges, this is a broke profile. He's got no drip, does not own any Gucci belts, cannot swing a bat. He's got a toothpick in his hand. But, but, the 80 catcher ability alone, he's probably the best pure defensive catcher. Um, it's unbelievable what he does to Arizona. They have a reliever that's going to win the Win Award in the National League. So, like, it's just insane. He's dropping their ERAs probably by like a whole point.
Yeah, that was kind of my argument. I mean, if you look at their pitchers, they have, like you just said, dropping them by a point ERA. They have no business putting up anywhere close to the stats. And I know it's hard to, it's a team game. You don't want to pin it all on one player. But I know there's going to be, out of like, say, everyone that watches this video, some might agree and some might think I'm a total idiot for having them this high. But I'll give you a couple of examples on my screen here. So Brandon Barriera is a 35 control pitcher. The dude at 35 control, you should be walking about 18 to 19% of guys. If you typed in guy with really high stuff, made a filter in the league and did like 35 or 30 control, and he's nerfing his control all the way down to 12, which isn't bad at all. There's some starting pitchers that have 55 control that only walk 12. The dude's striking out 51.8% of guys on the season. He has 200 strikeouts as a reliever. He's got only 50 movement, and so you look at the kind of the stats of a few of these guys putting up on Arizona. You look at Barriera there, and then you look at what's the other guy that's just ridiculous? Uderera. He's got a 1.89 ERA. Look at this guy's profile. He's 55 stuff, 55 movement in the pen. There's probably 100 pitchers in baseball that have ratings as good or better than this guy that have way higher stamina, way better fastballs, and the guy's putting up top 10 reliever stats in baseball. He's got 27% K rate, .2 home runs per nine. He's only walking 5% of guys with only 50 control. That's like equivalent to having 70 control walking 5% of guys. And so you just see some of these stats, and he's worth 2.3 WAR. And like I said to Drew before the video, I think this would be like a 0 WAR guy in most teams with even like a 60 ability catcher. Another guy, a really high draft pick who has a really bright future, but he's not quite there yet. Master Donatato. I don't know how the heck to say it. I totally butchered that. 45 control. He's only walking 7% of guys. Like that's like all my pitchers have like 60 control in my starting rotation, and they're all walking like 7-8% of guys. So it just makes it so this like everyone, this the entire staff pretty much is walking like 15%. Like it's crazy. Like so if you think about it, say he adds a WAR to all these guys with how amazing their K and walk rates have been because of Hedges and how well he's calling the games. I'd have to make the argument he's worth close to 7 to 8 WAR. It's just amazing what everyone's done. They have another guy 21 wins, like you just said. Look at this profile. 60 stuff, 50 movement, 45 control. He's walking single digit players percentage per it's like 9.4% walking percentage, and hitters only hitting 240 off him, and he has 21 wins. It's just outrageous, some of the stuff he's been able to do. And their pitchers, if you just looked at those ratings, like I think it's just crazy that they're fifth in the league in earned run average. So I'd have to imagine he's saving that team 70 runs a year. It's just unbelievable how ridiculous his defense is. So I know we talked about that for a while. I should probably move on here. Is there anything you want to add to that, or we kind of cover it all?
Yeah, I would rather have Gary Sanchez on my team.
Big boomstick. Can't go wrong with
Yeah,
the
let him swing it.
over the toothpick. I know that sounds a little bit enticing, that's for sure. Next up, Izaac Pacheco, who has been one of my favorite players in TLG. Absolutely obsessed with this guy's profile. Like I mentioned in my shortstop video, if you guys watched it, it really is kind of going down the path of those really exciting shortstops like Cal Ripken Jr., A-Rod, 6'4", like a Carlos Correa too, 6'4", monster 70 arm, monster power bat. The guy has over a 300 ISO as a shortstop, 300 ISO with 65 range and 70 arm and 80 shortstop error. and captain and high loyalty plus I. I mean, this guy is definitely a top 20 player in baseball at number 18 on the list now.
Makes me sick because this is what Bobby Witt should have been.
Mm-hmm.
But he has everything you want. There's literally everything across the board is everything that you want for a player. He's a franchise cornerstone, only 23. Honestly, he might even be a little low on the list because of the personality ratings and the potential to shift to third at some point. He's unreal.
I didn't even realize he was still 23. I was thinking he was 24, 25. Still 23. Yeah, that is unbelievable. The guy hit 216 last year and 260. He's striking out 26% of the time. It's just every time like he hits the ball so hard. I would love to see that guy's exit velocity if he was a real life profile like that. Yeah, I think you're right though. I think there's a chance he could definitely be in the top 10 if he keeps trending upwards in the future. Next up, we have another arm. We've been a while without an arm here. I think I only have 6 arms in the top, maybe 7 or 8 arms actually in the top 30. It's really position player dominated list, but you can see why once you get to the top tier how good some of these guys are. But I had to have Jack Flaherty up there. Jack Flaherty is amazing. Jack Flaherty has had some of the craziest seasons in TLG. I'm just looking at him now. What do we got here? 44 career WAR already. The guy had an 8 WAR season, a 7.3 WAR season, multiple 5 WAR seasons, ton of 4.5 WAR seasons. Just he's done it at a high level for a long ass time.
Yeah, and probably he and Kyle Wright are probably the two best starting pitchers in the league's history. He's on track to be a Hall of Famer, and it's insane too with Pittsburgh's rotation. He could be a number one, number two, or number three, but he's a guy I'd want pitching any game in the playoffs. He's got the dream profile.
Yeah, that's a good point you make about the history of the TLG. I think it'd be really fun once we get closer to 2029 to do like an all-decade team for sure, because we started right at 2020, so that'll be really cool to do. I think I'll start planning for that. We have a little while, obviously, till then. But Jack Flaherty, I'm just looking at his contract stuff now, kind of licking my lips. The dude is making 19 million this year, 19 million next year. And I know Alex is always tougher budget, but it's you really want to make some room for a guy like this. Hopefully, he can up his budget and have a chance to re-sign him. So you hate to let a guy like this walk or have to trade him, but if he does hit the open market at 31, 30, or 32 years old in 2 years, he's going to want a hefty deal, kind of like a 35 a year type thing. That's going to be tough once those guys all start getting real expensive for Pittsburgh. They got some major talent there, that's for sure. All right, the guy we mentioned a couple times in this video up next, we got Kyle Wright. Let's see here, number 16 on the list. Kyle Wright, you had him in Atlanta. Can you talk about his profile and what he's done in Coors for me?
Yeah, so the thing is, you look at the profile and you're like, what do you mean? Like Flaherty and Esqueda were both better. Like there's better numbers on the screen. Kyle Wright is doing all of this at Coors, so his ERA is probably like a whole point higher than what it would be if he was pitching anywhere else. The extreme ground ball profile, ground baller with four plus pitches with insane stuff and movement. Uh, it's unbelievable. He's racking up like 4 to 5 WAR every year, guaranteed. And this is going to be his first year with probably a 4+ WAR in like 5 seasons. He's just unbelievable. He's sensational, and for bang for buck, I think he's the best pitcher that we have in the league.
I agree. And one thing I do want to mention before we move on too is shout out to him. Though I love how we had the World Baseball Classic. I've actually never done that.
Oh my god.
I was always afraid if I added it in game as a commissioner mode or whatever. I just thought I'd fuck something up or the schedule. So, anyways, I'd never done that. I thought it was really cool when you add that. I'm looking at now, just remembering March 24th against Cuba in the gold medal game. Cuba, surprisingly, I think knocked off Dominican or something, but made it all the way. Kyle Wright led the USA loaded squad to victory, 7-0. The dude had 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, 15 strikeouts, 0 walks. So if that doesn't prove you're a top 15 player in baseball in the world, then what would? That is a dominant performance against a Cuba team in that final game. What a what a crazy way to go out on that World Baseball Classic. The guy's a legend for the U.S. forever because of that.
Yo, and the other thing too is he's getting robbed of accolades. He's only a two-time All-Star. I think he should be like a 5 or 6 time All-Star, and then also have a Cy Young under his belt. But it's fine.
Wait,
It's fine.
how?
It's fine.
How has he only got 2 All-Star games? I never thought of that. He must be a really slow starter. That's crazy. Dude's had like all these 6 WAR seasons. So, yeah, I guess we're slacking as voters. All right, so next up we have Marcelo Mayer. Marcelo, what do you think about Marcelo Mayer being ahead of Pacheco? Do you agree with that rating, or do you think Pacheco maybe should be ahead based on his power? I really had a tough time with that one, but I just had to go with Mayer just because Mayer's got such higher contact. I think Pacheco at the 50 contact, 40 avoid K rating. I think last year he hit 216. This year he's hitting really well, but the consistency thing was the main reason for me. I could totally see Mayer hitting like 275, 280 every year and always being like 6 WAR. Where Pacheco's profile gave me a little more hesitation that maybe he'd have a couple. I know he hits the ball hard, so it doesn't really matter. He plays good defense, but that was kind of a thing for me. I thought Pacheco could maybe have a couple bad years hitting 230, the lower contact skill, where I think Meyer's just got such a consistent profile where he's just always going to hit like 20 bombs and give you like 15 zone range and give you like 5-6 WAR. What do you think about those two players? And they're kind of having Meyer ahead of him.
I'm totally fine with it. I think Meyer's better defensively, and I think the big thing is that we've seen Meyer do this. If Pacheco comes back next year and he knocks 40 again, I think we're gonna have a different conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree there. Ever since 2024, Meyer is a super young pup at 21 years old, has been producing at such a high level, 16 WAR already at the age of 23. Dude's a young superstar. That's why he's number